Hello, this is Mr. Bailey. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about how to actually finalize and export your final product as part of an Audacity project. So the students in my class have been working on a project in which they created the introduction to a podcast, and the requirements required audio, particularly music in the background, and then a voiceover. And as you can see in the track that I've provided here, I have audio in track one. That's the song that I'm using. That actually just is instrumental music. And then in the background or foreground, there's my voiceover, and so you can see my vocal track right there. And for our project, we were just doing the introduction. And so we realized that it's probably going to come to about 35 seconds of audio. But if we can do the skills that it required to do this, we're setting a foundation for other stuff. So this is just the introduction. I made a hypothetical science fiction podcast. Not that I'm terribly deep into science fiction, but I was just trying to go with the music that I was using at that moment in time. So with that said, I have my tracks ready to go. But now the question is what am I going to do with this? Okay, how do I take this Audacity file and then I make sure that it comes out as an MP3 file? Well, first thing that you should always do is you should hit File and Save, and you should save your project. Obviously, it's disabled on my screen right there because I just saved the project right before I started recording this video. So now that you know that it's saved, the next thing you should do is hit File, and then you scroll down to where it says Export. For my class, I'm going to generally want you to export it as an MP3. Some other places will want a WAV file, but for now, we're going to stick with MP3 files. So if I pick Export as MP3, I will be prompted to save the file. Unfortunately, though, this Audacity folder is embedded deep inside of the student school file system, and I don't recommend saving anything to it. Instead, what I have done is I have designated a folder where I'm going to save all of my work, and I have it saved on my desktop. So before you even do any of this, you should change your destination folder to desktop. And then for me, I made a folder called Final Audacity Projects. And so that's where I'm always going to export my file. So I'm going to choose that folder, which happens to be empty. So now I have my folder selected correctly. The next thing is the file name, which I'm okay with that being the file name for this. And then you'll notice that there are other options. It'll say the bit rate is preset, quality, variable speed, all that stuff. You don't really have to mess with any of that because you're generally working with high definition recording equipment and encoding and all that stuff. So you don't really have to mess too much with any of that. So what's going to happen is I'm going to hit save. And they say your tracks will be mixed down and exported as one stereo file. And that's fine. In other words, like when it gets exported to an MP3, it'll look like like a left and a right channel, the way that like a regular stereo or final mix of a musical piece would work out. So you're going to hit you say, okay. The next thing is it's going to ask you some things. Now notice mine was filled in because the audio track that I was using had that. I'm deleting that because I don't really need those things. If yours is blank, you don't have to do any of that. But you can choose to type in the artist name. If you record your own music, you can type your own artist name, the track title, the album title, all that stuff. For me, this was just imported because the audio file that I used had the metadata in it, and that was my own music. So in either case, it even shows like what program I was using when I did it. Nonetheless, we don't need any of that. The composer is still me. Nonetheless, so yours will probably be blank when you look at this, and that's fine because you're not, making cutting an album and need the metadata in there. And then you just simply hit OK. So when you hit OK, it says it's exporting the audio. So now I'm going to go to the destination folder, which is going to be Audacity final thing. So final projects. So final Audacity projects. When I go into here, you'll see that the MP3 file is here, and I can. I'm going to open with VLC Media Player, and just to see if it works. Yeah, let's continue. Here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Other Worlds podcast. This podcast is dedicated to discussing topics in science. So as you can see, it played cleanly, and you should check to make sure it plays all the way through the end. But that's how you know that you actually finished this. Now, there's two ways to turn it in PowerSchool. One is you can hit upload file, and you can just choose this MP3 file as how you're turning it in. The other thing, too, is that I recommend that you save all of your stuff in Google Drive. And as it turns out, I have a folder like My Drive in Google Drive. And the easiest way to move that file, to copy that file into Google Drive, is to simply, I'm going to make the screen a little smaller here. I'm going to pick the file here, and then I'm just going to drop it into my Google Drive. And it's uploading. You can actually see the dialog box it was uploading, and then it's complete. You can attach from Google Drive when you go into PowerSchool, and then you just navigate to this folder, and you have access to that. So that is how you take your and save your intro to sci-fi or podcast, whatever you did, and then you export it as an MP3 file, and then you can turn it in by either directly uploading it into PowerSchool, or you can turn it in by attaching from Google Drive if you've clicked and dragged it into your Google Drive. Thank you.